Hey guys, I'm back, and this is a new show alert. It's Brigerton, story of Queen Charlotte. Now, I haven't watched Brigerton, the series yet. When I first started watching it, I didn't really get into it beyond a couple of episodes. But now that I've seen, or am watching, I should say, Queen Charlotte and her story, it's prompted me to, now go back to Brigerton and see what's going on with that because I'm getting like the prequel, the backstory. So anyway, so the Queen Charlotte story. So we start off, and it's on Netflix, by the way. Okay, so we start off with a young Charlotte. She's walking around her house. They live in Germany, and she is walking around the house, and she overhears her brother making some sort of deal with some other guys, and she's not familiar with who they are. But she is overhearing the details of it, which actually is her being contracted out to marry the King of England. And this was nothing uncommon. We're talking about what, the 1700s. It's very common. Women would be part of arranged marriages, and it is what it is. A lot of the commingling of countries and provinces and whatever they want to call it back in the day. Supposedly it unites power, it's a financial gain, this and that and the third. So we've seen other stories where this has occurred. I think the one about Queen Victoria, I think that was the one that was on UPN network, where, she ended up marrying the King of England, I do believe, and all of that. So again, it happens. It's part of, just what it was for that time period. So she overhears the conversation. She discovers that she is being, married off to someone that she never met, doesn't know what he looks like, and she has no say so in the matter. So she's pissed off. And when she gets with her brother, and I think his name is Amalis, I might be mispronounced. I think his name is Amalis. When she gets with her brother, in the stage carriage, they're on their way to England, and she's not moving. She's very upset. She's not happy about the whole circumstance. We already see she's a very headstrong individual. We see that she is not about that. I'm just going to just be about the business of just following directions. I question things. She's that type of person we see in right off. So her and her brother get to talking. He was like, look, I don't understand what the problem is. You've been sitting in the same position. You're not saying much. What's really going on? And she was like, are you for real? So, well, first off, I can't, because I'm going to meet, the King of England. I'm wearing this very heavy dress. I got on these corsets that's made out of whalebone and something else. She said, and if I move incorrectly, I could actually puncture my lungs. She was lots of sarcasm, because again, she doesn't want to go through with this. This was not of her saying. She's got to go through with this. She's pissed off. She got an attitude. And her brother gets an attitude back with it. He was like, look, this is for the good of the country. This is this and that and the third. And he's like, look, you know what? I regret that I gave you so many privileges after our parents passed away, such as like reading what you want to read and voicing your opinion and doing the things that you want to do. And I really wanted to make up for the loss of our parents. So I thought that would be a good idea. But now I'm seeing it's created a monster, someone that's hard to control. This argument goes nowhere fast, because again, her having an attitude about the situation means nothing. It's going to happen. It's beyond her control. So she giving her brother all this lip, all this attitude, and it's like, child, and we're on our way to England, and you're going to get married, and you're going to become Queen of England. That's just, that's just what it is. So when they do get to England, they meet the king's mother. So Queen Mother, they meet her. She's a trip. She a mess. She a real trip, and she walks in the door, and there's the individuals that represent Parliament is also there, right? In particular, the House of Commons. In England, they have House of Commons and House of Lords, but they're, of course, the House of Lords is, that's who they're people of, of the upper echelon, the upper social class, and all of that, and the royal family, blah, blah, blah. So she gets there, and you can already see the looks on their faces. Like they were told that she's of more descent, aka that she's black, but they wasn't expecting her to be as dark as, and I'm using air quotes, being as dark as she was. So the queen mother is doing a full inspection, right? I'm like, girl, it looked, I mean, literally, she's, oh, your hips, they look great for childbearing. And oh, you got this and that. She's checking her out like you would an animal like a dog in a dog show, at the Westminster, whatever it is, the dog show where they check out the teeth and they check out the hair and the tail and all that kind of stuff. Same thing that she was doing with Charlotte, checking her out like she was, not even, well, they didn't even that well. I'm gonna go on and just say checking her out, seeing if she's suitable. And the only thing that she had a big issue was because she touched Charlotte's face, and I guess she thought she can rub the black off. Because I mean, she literally just touched this woman's face, like, oh, I just didn't realize she was gonna be so dark. Now this is a fair skinned black woman, but for their standards, she ain't fair skinned enough. I guess they were expecting someone, even though of more descent, they were expecting someone that basically could pass, if nothing else. And Queen Charlotte, well, at this point, just Charlotte could not pass. So they call this the Great Experiment, all right? So this whole bringing together this woman of more descent, marrying the King of England, was called the Great Experiment. Bringing a black woman to marry this white man, that's what the experiment was about. I'm like, oh, and it's referenced throughout the whole series. So with that in mind, Charlotte was like, I did bring my own wedding gown. I had it made from Paris, blah, blah, blah. And Queen Mother already, making sure that she's setting the tone here for how things going to go. She was like, look, girl, we already have a gown in mind. We have different tastes than from yours, a little too flamboyant. We're a little bit more conservative over here, and we have a gown that you'll be wearing at the ceremony. Charlotte looking at her like, girl, what? Girl, what? But again, this is the groundwork for the power struggle. This is what we're looking at here. We already seen the power struggle. And Charlotte's looking at this woman like, okay, I'm already in a situation where I'm not in a win-win, okay? I'm losing out big time. So she's got all kinds of attitude, right? All kinds of attitude. Now, we also get introduced to Lady Danbury, okay? Well, she wasn't Lady Danbury yet. She was Princess Dansbury, I guess, so I forget what her title was, but she wasn't a lady yet. We get introduced to her, Miss Dansbury. I'll say Miss Dansbury for the moment. And Mr. Dansbury, clearly you can see that this was an arranged marriage because she's probably in her mid-20s and her husband got to be, I don't know. Let me see. Life expectancy back in those days probably was like, if you lived to be 50, that was doing a lot, I guess. So I'm going to say maybe he was in his 50s. Okay. I'm going to say that. They're black. Okay. They come from, I think her family's from Sierra Leone, and I don't know where he is, but they come from royalty. They are of the upper class as well, but not quite on the status as the royal family. It's still like they're at the highest level where they can be as far as being black people. Let's just look at it that way. So we meet them. She's, we're seeing her. She's having, marital relations with her husband. It is awful. She's looking up at the ceiling. This is also repeated, constantly. She's not enjoying herself. She's after that situation. She takes a bath. We meet her primary, I guess, maid, I guess, or attendee or whatever. I guess it's her maid. And they're talking, and she's just like, I'm just unhappy in this situation. I have children by this man. I'm not really happy in this marriage. I've never been happy in this marriage, but I got to endure what I got to endure. So, I mean, we don't get the details beyond regarding their marriage until, I don't know, maybe episode 3 or 4. But for the moment, we just know that she's in an unhappy situation. And he is all about social climbing. He wants to be the creme de la creme, beyond what he is right now, which isn't enough. So he's all about image and social class, elitism. He's all about that. And she's like, okay, I'm, you know. So it's the day of the wedding. We get to that point, and Charlotte gets dressed in this plain Jane dress. She doesn't like it. She eases up out of the castle or goes out in the they got the little maze, the garden, whatever, and she goes out there and she's trying to climb a wall. She's trying to leave. She don't want to be bothered. And one of her main attendee, I'm going to say attendee or her handler, whatever his title is, he always walks 5 steps behind her, Brigsby. He after he introduces himself to Charlotte and lets Charlotte know how this works in the castle, what his role is. So he is her right-hand man. And he's always there, like wherever she goes, like he is stationed to be with her, which is annoying to her, but it is what it is. So everybody is at the palace. They're there for the wedding. They're all excited, and they're waiting for the bride. And yet he can't find her. Like she escaped. So he goes to look for the brother's going to look for Charlotte, and we see the king. All right. Well, we don't know he's the king, but we see this guy. He goes out into the garden area, the maze. It's basically like a maze. He goes out in the garden area. He catches Charlotte. And once he stands there and he starts talking to her, I already figured out immediately. I said, okay, that's probably the king. And she was like, yeah, I'm trying to leave. I'm a lady in distress. I am scheduled to marry someone that he might be a troll. I don't know this man. I don't want to marry him. I'm afraid of the whole situation. I just need to get up out of here. I want to go back home. This isn't for me. And come to find out, that was the king. That's King George. Then her brother shows up, and he's all embarrassed, and because of the sister acting out and trying to leave and all of that. And once she discovered that he's a good-looking young man, he ain't a troll. And he even tells her, he said, look, you don't have to call me your majesty, just call me George, right? So she seems to be put a little bit at ease. They go on with the wedding, right? They go on with this wedding. And her expectations, of course, are like any other bride. Like, okay, I guess, we're going to go to our house. We're going to have a very eventful wedding night. And there you have it. But that's not what actually happens. They go to the reception. They have a good time. They party. They dance. Look like there's some chemistry there. Well, after that, everybody, they stand in their receiving line and they, receive everybody. And Charlotte's now Queen Charlotte. Well, she hasn't gone through the coronation yet, but we know she's soon to be Queen Charlotte, right? Her brother leaves and he was like, you're my Royal Highness. He's, greeting her as if she's just royalty and not his sister anymore. He's very formal. He was like, I hope that you're with child soon, something like that. Because that's another thing. You get married, hurry up and create an heir to the throne. That's a big, big deal. So she's looking at him like, why is he acting like all of a sudden, like, you don't know who I am, or you're treating me like, a stranger. Like, okay, yes, I'm your queen, but come on, I'm your sister first. But anyway, this is just her introduction to this other world that she's part of, that she's going to have to try to get used to. So the king tells Charlotte, he's like, look, I have a surprise for you. And she was all excited. She's like, okay. So they get to this house, and I think it's Buckingham Palace. I think her house is Buckingham Palace. And he gets there and he was like, well, this is for you. And she was like, oh, you mean for us? And he was like, no, for you. I'm going to stay at Q. And she was like, why am I staying here and you're staying someplace else? He said, well, that's just the way the arrangement's going to be. And I'm going to leave tonight. You go ahead. He introduced her to her staff. And she was like, hold on. This is our wedding night. We're supposed to be on our honeymoon. What are you talking about? Like, why are you leaving? He was like, that's just the way it's going to be. I'm your king. Get over it. And she was like, oh, I thought you told me to call you George. But since that's the way it's going to be, all right, I guess, we'll just have to deal. So immediately we're already seeing like, okay, there's something going on here with the king, because why he was so charming, We can see there's chemistry, but yet he's leaving to go live someplace else. Like, that doesn't make any sense. They're not even consummating the marriage, which becomes a focal point for the episode too. So we see Charlotte in her routine. She's getting dressed, and 3 times a day she gets dressed and she goes sits at dinner, and she sits and she eats by herself. There's no one else at the other end of the table. King is not there. She's sitting there and she's very lonely. She's lonely. She's agitated. You know, she's just not understanding, like, this is like, why are things occurring the way that they are occurring? This is not what I bargained for, but then again, I didn't bargain for anything. So yeah, she's pretty upset. Meanwhile, we get the Queen Mother has decided to give one of the Black women a title of lady, to put her into the new Queen's court. So that's Lady Dansbury. And as a result of that, then her husband is Lord Dansbury, and he is beyond elated. That's what he wanted, and all of that good stuff. So Lady Dansbury is like, okay, I'm excited to be in the Queen's court. I don't know what all is entailed in the Queen's court, but she's part of it. So that, I guess, socially speaking, class structure speaking, she's in a top, even further up the ladder than what she was prior to being appointed a lady. So the Queen later on notices that, well, let me jump ahead. I'm jumping ahead. Queen Charlotte decides that she's over this. Like, I need to figure out what's going on with my husband. I don't see him. I'm eating alone. I'm lonely. This ain't making any sense. And she demands to go and be taken to her husband. So her attendee brings this, like, well, no, that ain't how this actually works. She said, oh, no, I'm the Queen. That's how it's going to work. So they go to Q, which is where the king is living, and they get there, and the King's attendant is there. I forget his name, but he's there, and he was like, well, the king is not to be disturbed. What are you doing here? Queen was like, take me to the king. I don't care what you got. I don't care about formality. I don't care what he's doing. I'm the Queen. I'm his wife. We gonna, So she does go see the king, right? She does go see him. And, he's irate. He's like, you're not supposed to be here. You have your own house. They get into a shouting match, and again, we're like, he said, well, this is all, he's staying in his observatory. He is into the sciences. He loves science. And in particular, he loves astronomy. So it's explaining him being here, initially being there and looking at the stars and all that kind of good stuff. And she was like, okay, I understand that you love your astronomy, and I'm not trying to put a damper on that. But what I'm struggling with is I'm your wife, and we're supposed to be on honeymoon, and we're not honeymooning. Like, what is really going on here? And he was like, well, yeah, but this is for the best, and this is how it's supposed to be. And, he shrugs her off. So she does leave, right? She does go back. She's frustrated. She's angry because she's not understanding, and she's looking and she's questioning herself. Like, what did I do wrong? The usuals. Like, it's like, I don't have anyone to talk to. I can't have company. I can't go. And she even tells them, she said, I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything because I'm supposed to be on my honeymoon. So it's not like I can go out in the city and hang out in the city. I have to be in the castle because I'm supposed to be with you, and I'm not even with you. So this is a problem. Meanwhile, Queen Mom, the big question in the whole episode 2 question was about, have they consummated the marriage? And Charlotte is, she wants some company. So she calls for one, Lady Dansbury. She said, I think she's the most trustworthy individual out of the group of ladies in waiting. I want to talk to her. So she talks to Lady Dansbury, and, they're developing their friendship, right? They're confiding in each other, so to speak. They're developing their friendship. We see that there's a lot still that Charlotte doesn't know in terms of wifely duties, and Lady Dansbury draws pictures of how that's supposed to go and everything. And Charlotte is like, I don't, how long does this last? Like, what do you need to do? She's asking about sex. And, she's still confused as to how this is supposed to all work out. So meanwhile, the queen mom, the king's mother, is worried because she doesn't think they're consummating their marriage. That means there's no heir or no soon to be heir. Something's wrong. So she knows that Lady Dansbury went to go visit Charlotte. So as a result, she sends for Lady Dansbury, and her husband is like, "Why are they sending for you? What's going on? What's happening?" She was like, "Look," she said, "I don't know what's happening. I don't know the story. Whatever the case may be, I'll find out I'll let you know what I find out." And really, what it is, she's playing double agent. She's got supposed to be a confidant to the Queen Charlotte, but she's also trying to be a confidant to Queen Mother in terms of saying and reporting back on what's going on with the relationship, the marriage, blah, blah, blah. But she's not really telling all the business. She's playing both sides. And in the midst of that, she is also negotiated, she said, "Well, as I'm supposed to be your confidant and everything, and I have the title of lady, and my husband is now lord, and yet that's supposed to come with some of the French benefits, like we're supposed to have an additional allowance, we have a house, we do this and we do that and a third, and we don't have any of those things." So she negotiated to get them a house. She negotiated to get them additional allowance, even though she does have money already. Now her family comes from money, and so does her husband. So they get that, the queen mom's like, "Okay, I gotta, play the game until I can, at least until we can confirm that they have consummated their marriage." So eventually, Charlotte, well, let me not go too far ahead. So eventually what we get is we start finding out a little bit more about the king. And I'm going to wait to talk about episodes 3 and 4. And what I will say is that we've started to discover some things about the king that explains why he has been distant from the queen, from Queen Charlotte. There definitely is a reason for that. I think it's actually a good reason, considering the time period, it seems to be a good reason. So I'll come back and I'll discuss episodes 3 and 4. But I want to give you episodes 1 and 2, where we do get introduced to a few different characters. I'm liking it. I'm liking it so far. I liked how Queen Charlotte is very much so, her own person. She's not always going to be listening to everybody else. I do like the dynamic that her and Lady Dansbury have. They have a really good friendship there that we know grows over the years. Like they become very close. So that's all I got for right now, but I'll be back. Talk to you later. Peace.